Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the One Meal Channel. We have just come off of a 2-day break where I worked a graveyard shift, and now we are back with our regular scheduled programming. And if you want to enjoy this video as much as I enjoy making them, grab yourself some food of your own, a beverage, or listen to this before going to bed, and let's enjoy making a massive pile of food to create this video, another episode of the One Meal Channel. How have y'all been? Sorry to keep you waiting for the last couple of days, but I appreciate all of you being so patient. We've had a ton of new subscribers, people from the 1 meal a day community, the OMAD diet community, joining us. I'm going to put a lid on this so we can reduce the splatter ever so slightly. We've had tons of new subscribers. We are well on our way of hitting 1,000 subscribers this year. And so let's have some fresh chicken instead of that rotisserie chicken that I usually have. This is about a pound of chicken tenders. I left my chicken breast in the freezer for the last day. Didn't thaw any of it out. So instead, we're going to pick up these chicken tenders. It's about $2.50 from the store for a pound, so it's still a good price. The point of this channel is to make one massive meal for ourselves. If you want to know the reason why, I have no problem answering it for you, but we have... Where's my paper towel? My roommate took my paper towel. If you want to know the reason why I only eat 1 meal a day, you can look back at some previous videos in my comments, or just leave another comment of your own and I'll answer it for you. Anyway, let's have some fresh chicken here today. Cut this up into some nice large chunks. We have our rusty, trusty knife. It's probably my least favorite knife. It looks awesome. It's supposed to cut awesome, but it doesn't. It's probably one of the oldest knives that I have, but it's been with us the entire history of the channel, so we'll keep it just for now. So with all of that nice and cut up, let's transfer it over into our pan where we just finished cooking up our eggs. I found with the coconut oil that we use that the taste and the flavor of the eggs doesn't transfer into the oil itself. So we're not ending up with any like agey chicken flavor. That would kind of ruin what we got going on right here. We're gonna let that chicken cook up just a little bit, render out, condense with the moisture. And then once it stops crackling and popping and making a mess, we will transfer everything, or excuse me, just remove the lid from it and let everything evaporate again. We're going to make kind of a traditional egg fried rice. Traditional is a bit of a stretch. But I have a half cup, or it's actually 1.5 cooked cups of day-old rice that we're going to be adding with 4 more eggs. We'll have 1 whole potato, half of this massive gargantuan onion, as well as a can of beans. Recently we've been adding a can of black beans just to give us a little bit more protein with a little bit less carbs. I used to go through a whole cup with 3 cooked cups of rice every single day. That comes out to about 1,000 calories worth of just high carb rice. Our potatoes obviously have some carbs in it, but this is also full of potassium. 1 serving of potato has more potassium than a serving of banana, has more potassium than a serving of sweet potato. Also chock full of vitamins and minerals like vitamin B, some good starches, some good fibers as well. So potato is just an excellent thing to keep included in our diet. At least for me, I would rather take out some of the rice before I take out some of the potato. Let's put our hot water on with our soap and clean off our cutting board before we cut up the vegetables. Try to keep as clean of a work surface as possible. For you long-time viewers, you know, I used to cut my onions and vegetables on just a paper towel for this exact reason. I wouldn't I wouldn't even bother cleaning. Well, I would just use a different knife. And I wouldn't use the same cutting board. As soon as meat went on the cutting board, that cutting board was done, unless it was being used for other meat-needed purposes. But you guys don't seem to mind the little change that we've made. The reason why, it isn't that I didn't want to, because I know I talk a lot and I clean myself, and then literally there's like a piece of chicken that ends up in my hands, so I have to go wash my hands again. It isn't that I don't like washing my hands in between the things that I do, it's that I don't think washing my hands is thorough enough. So when I did work in food service, there was a big priority on sanitizing all of our dishes and our hands, rather than just simply cleaning them. And what that would mean is putting all of our plates and all of our cooking utensils through that industrial washing machine, essentially. And I still think that's probably the best way to go about things and do things, is if you are using a cutting board or a knife and you use it for chicken or meat, some other raw food, probably best for you to throw that in the washing machine and let that go and completely sanitize before you use it on any sort of vegetables again. I do still think that that's the best way to go. Now also, we can't be so risk averse that we just don't do anything at all. And I don't want to be I don't like using the word, I just don't want to be anal about these things. I think it's the only time I've used that word on the channel. It's like I don't want to act that way. So I think we gotta just spend as much time learning new information about the things that we do in order to be the best versions of ourselves that we can. But we also have to balance that with the consequences of behaving that way. And I live with a roommate. I do not want to be the person that is just like constantly saying that I have to throw things in the dishwasher every time they're being used, because he needs to use things too. I am happy to be back consuming my high egg diet. About 8 eggs a day. 4 eggs is about as much as I can eat in this format right here. Sunny side up or whatever. If I eat any more, my body's like, hey dude, those are a lot of eggs. That's a lot of fat that you're consuming all at once. And eggs have a very unique scent and texture and taste. So I can eat about 4 of them this way. Then I'll have another 4 in the rice, and kind of just like an egg fried rice. I don't know how the heat of the pan and the act of frying up all of that egg affects the amount of fats that I'm getting from the yolks. I like having my yolks over medium, almost exactly like this, where it's still a little bit runny. But even if I cut all the way through it, the runniness sticks to my fork. So there's very little left on the plate. And I do that, and I don't know if this is true or not. I want to cook this enough so that it's healthy and safe to eat, but I don't want to cook this so much so any of like the healthy vitamins and nutrients and antioxidants and fats that are in here, the lipids, go away. I don't want to cook out any of those lipids. And let's be honest, with the American processing system for food, even just pasteurization in general, a lot of those nutrients are probably lost. So spending all of that extra time and care trying to maximize every little bit that I can get out of it, when in reality, it probably makes no difference at all. We gotta live though, don't we? We gotta keep our hopes up. So about 8 eggs a day total. I used to count my macros and do everything and post on the screen for everybody to see. But I just didn't really see the point in continuing that because it was a lot of work for me to do to basically see the exact same results every single day, which is I'm eating about 2,000 calories a day in a single meal. About 1,000 calories of that is from the rice alone. And that's, so about 50% of that is carbs. And then 20% fats and 30% protein. Now that we're switching over to the beans rather than as much rice as I had, it's now 500 calories from the rice, 300 calories from the beans, and then everything else is about the same. So we're getting about 40%, maybe like 35-40% carbs, 35-40% proteins, and then the rest are fat. This does a good job of just maintaining my calories throughout the day. I'm not, be advised, 2,000 calories is about all it takes to sustain me. I'm not working out, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not unhealthy, I'm at a good weight that I want to be at. Ideally, I probably would put on another 10 pounds of muscle, maybe 15 pounds of muscle just to make me look, I'm in my mid-20s. So, just make me looking good and things like that. So I'm not really focused on that. I work a remote job, which means that I sit at my computer most of the time. The only thing that I really should be changing about how I live from like a health standpoint is like walking more. I should be spending more time walking. I should be spending an hour a day walking. And because I don't, that's probably affecting my cardiovascular health negatively. As for like putting on a whole ton of muscle, that's absolutely something that I can do, but it would just be for me to like feel healthier, if that makes sense. Or just, basically it would be like to try and impress other people. And I just don't have any interest in doing that. There's no reason for me to put on like 15 pounds of muscle because I'm going to be using it, right? I work in the garage and I help Noah with his like automotive projects. And from time to time we need to pull an engine out or drop a transmission. And don't get me wrong, that's extremely taxing. But Noah and I have, I would say, pretty similar strengths to one another. Give or take a couple of things here and there. We accelerate in certain things that the other one doesn't. But more or less, it's like we're not, I'm not like 100 times strong. That's an exaggeration. Noah is not a weak person and neither am I. We both, there is really nothing that either of us could set our minds to that require us to use our like physicality that the other person wouldn't be able to keep up with. So, again, I would like to start going to the gym this year. I'm going to need to stop working that graveyard shift job in order to do something like that, just so I can have the consistency to go there. But frankly, I think most of my time is just going to be spent using the treadmill, doing extremely like a lightweight, high rep type of stuff, and doing low weight, high rep type of stuff, and like band works, because it's good. I'm at the age now where I played a lot of sports in high school. I beat myself up. It was physical sports like football. My joints are starting to have more pain in them. My cardiovascular health is starting to decline, or at least obviously it's not like what it used to be. And my overall endurance is not as good. So if I can keep those things up, I think I'll be incredibly happy. But from a physicality standpoint, the most that I'm ever going to use my muscles for is like pulling the transmission out of a car, or hiking. So I'm not too overly concerned about having to increase my caloric intake a significant degree in order to keep up with the amount of working out that I'm doing every day. If I was working out every day, because again, like I said, I do want to do that this year, I would incorporate a protein shake. I used to do that in some previous videos because I was working out. So I would incorporate a protein shake for some more protein and some more calories. Probably some yogurt as well, for the protein, the calories, and the fiber. Maybe an additional egg for the fats and the calories. I feel like I would need a little bit more than that. I might even go back and just add all of the rice again, because I'm going to be burning a lot of the calories from the rice off while I'm in the gym. Ideally though, and if you've been watching me for a while, you've heard me say this before, the best that I've ever felt from what I ate was carnivore. Carnivore was fantastic. And I was strictly, just exclusively carnivore for like 2 or 3 months. And then I started adding eggs, and then I started adding potato and things like that. So I did depart from it shortly after. But eating like mostly beef and fish and elk and chicken. I guess pork would be included, but I don't like pork very much. Eating those things, super high fat, super high protein, low carbs, is some of the best that I've ever felt in my life. I had the least amount of like grogginess after I ate. Whether it was having 1 meal a day or 3, it didn't matter. I felt like I had the most energy. It was tough for the first few weeks, but as soon as I went into a state of ketosis, I felt like I had this amazing energy, the ability to just consistently eat the same type of meals, so I wasn't concerned about like what I was going to prepare and how I was going to prepare it. That is by far the best diet, but it was also the most expensive. I mean, just look at the price of beef. I wasn't eating ground beef, right? Oh, I wasn't eating any ground meat. I was eating big old steaks. So look at the price of what a steak is per pound, and recognize that I was eating like a pound or 2 of that a day, because I was working out at the time, so I felt like I needed to eat 2. And then multiply that by 30. And that gets your cost of what just the meat was. And then I was eating eggs on top of that, getting beef tallow, protein shakes maybe. It's an expensive way of eating. And I'm just a single guy. I'm not cooking for anybody else. You know, I mean, Noah and I cook for each other from time to time. But frankly, we just prefer to go out and like grab some Mexican food or grab some Cantonese food or something like that, and then bring it home and just eat it. We got a good system that way. It takes about the same amount of time to go out and get the food and bring it back as it does to just make it at home. And it's just fun. It's just enjoyable. I bring that up because a lot of you who are watching, you have families. You got a wife or a girlfriend, and if you have a family, you got to do things that are best for the kids. And if you got a girlfriend, you got to like save face. You can't but just be making like a protein mash of a whole bunch of stuff and putting it away and eating that every single day. While your girlfriend wants to go out and like have a bite to eat at a nice restaurant, and she doesn't like want to deal with you counting calories all the time. And who knows? Maybe I'm mistaken here. Maybe there are way more girls out there, and she's totally into that. And both of you like have a system with one another where you count calories with each other and stuff. Maybe that's really fun. But most of the girls that I know, they're not into that. Eating this way is a heck of a lot easier for me, being single, than it is when I've been in a relationship. So yeah, I'm interested. I mean, you 1 meal a day, fellas and gals. What? I mean, are we all mostly single here, trying to do this, trying to get like just our eating habits down right, our health goals in order? Maybe we're gym enthusiasts. Maybe you guys are competitive gym goers. Or maybe you just have some like gut biome issues that you're trying to get track of. Is that mostly why this 1 meal a day stuff is attractive to you? Yeah, or is there something else there? Because most of the things that I've heard from people that do like OMAD specifically, because I wouldn't say that I do eat 1 meal a day, but I didn't know the OMAD community was a thing until like a month or two ago, when I just started getting comments being like, oh, great to see a fellow OMADer out there. I said, oh, shoot. There's a whole community I didn't realize was out there. But most of the things that I read about like OMAD community people is that they have like a variation of carnivore, or they're like a pescatarian, and so they do a lot of fish or Mediterranean type diet. And then there's some that do like carb bombing as well, where they just have an absolute crap ton of carbs, but they're also pretty big like gym goers and stuff. That's like the chicken and rice, kind of like what I'm doing, but I'm not a gym goer. So again, I'm curious what the results are that you get, because most of the things that I've researched and I've looked up shows that it's good for consistency, because you only have to cook once. It makes for easy meal prepping, and it gives you good energy throughout the day. It's kind of more of like a ritual for you, where you do get hungry in the afternoon, but that discipline to allow your body to go through its own changes and just eat a few hours later, it's not going to kill you, so you do that anyway. It's kind of like, it's a good lifestyle choice, and it gives you good energy. For me, I feel like I do this out of necessity. I feel like I do this out of pure necessity. I don't think that I could like make the type of money that I can make, live the type of life that I want to live, have the amount of time for other people that I could if I like made myself 3 meals a day. I think I would either be like unhappy with the food that I was eating, that there would be even less variety, because I know I make about the same meal every day here, so talking about variety is a little rich coming from me. But imagine that not only once a day are you eating things that's like the same every day, but 3 times a day you're eating like the exact same meals. That would get really old for me. So I eat 1 meal a day because I know I have to get enough calories to survive. If I go and I eat food out all the time, I'm not going to be able to maintain my weight, and my budget's going to get blown out of proportion. I'm going to end up with a spending issue. And if I make a lot of variety of types of foods, it'll either affect my budget, or it'll affect the amount of time that I spend having to cook meals every single day. And like, I know that when work is done for me, I can take what I have out of the fridge, as long as the fridge is stocked up, and I can put all of this together in like 45 minutes. And no, this video is obviously not 45 minutes long. But yeah, I can put all of this together from before the recording starts to when after the recording ends I'm in my room is about 45 minutes. And that process works great for me. Yeah, and as you can see, adding these beans in with our meal, I think it's just spectacular. So thank you, Lydia, for that recommendation. I mean, even just eating something like this, I think would be completely fine. I think that's really good. I'm gonna add a little bit of soy sauce. And just give it a quick little toss over now that everything's mixed. I put these in a burrito last week, some of you remember, and it turned out great. I brought them to work with me, and the kind of starchiness of the beans, the potatoes are starchy, but the beans are softer. They would, I wouldn't say they break apart, but if you put pressure on them, they'll smear. Acted as a good binding agent. where I always talk about like, hey, you're welcome to use cheese in this so that your burrito stays together better. But frankly, the beans did an excellent job because the particulate from them that just broke apart and worked out fantastically. So we're almost done making our meal today. Let's get our finishing touches done, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot sauce to mine, a little bit of sriracha. So I just can't help myself, I love sriracha. But we are going to do a ritualistic weighing of the food. If we're not going to count our macros, we're not going to count or measure our macros and count our calories, then we might as well weigh our food to see how heavy of food we're consuming for the day. So again, this is probably around 2,000 calories, probably like 33% carbs, 30 or 40% carbs, 30 or 40% protein, and 20 to 30% fat. The eggs do a good job of giving us that fat, and we're getting some fat from the coconut oil that we're consuming as well. Keep our temperature up and let all of this just cook down. The bottom will get nice and well cooked. There's no moisture in here, so I'm happy putting the lid on. We'll just let that kind of fry up on the bottom. Flip it over and let that fry up on the opposite side, and then we're good to go. And you could, of course, like cook those eggs off to the side or not include the eggs if you want. But I'm just going to do everything that I can to maximize my calories, maximize my fats and proteins, get a good lipid profile. On top of all of this, I take blood work every 6 months. Ideally, I would take it every 3 months, just so I can get a better, measurement. Basically every 12 weeks of the progress that I'm making. Every time I make a change, I can do it for 12 weeks, understand exactly what the results are. But yeah, I get really good detailed blood panels. And it's really important to do that and get the detailed blood panels. They're not cheap, but without them, you aren't going to get a full understanding of how your body and your hormones are being affected by what you put into your body, as well as just like if you need to go out and you need to exercise more. Something that other people have recommended to me, including my doctor who prescribes basically that blood panel. I think it's the wrong word for it, but I think you know what I mean. Is that after eating is this much of a meal, this much substance, is to go out and actually just walk around the block for 20 minutes, and that helps with digestion. You can do that too. You said like this is a common thing that even like psychologists, people that are going through therapy use. It's very common that after you eat your meal, walk for 20 minutes because it helps with digestion, limits your glucosamine index spike, which means it helps to lower your blood pressure. And I'm not going to go as far to say this, but I'll just say it's helped people who have diabetes. I've heard people make some pretty exorbitant claims that I think have some validity to them, but I'm just not even going to bother mentioning it about how it affects people who have diabetes. But regardless, it is very clear that it is helpful for people that are diabetic eating this type of food. Obviously, if you're diabetic, I don't think maybe eating this much rice is good for you. But whatever you eat, walking after you eat your food is extremely helpful. And yeah, that might be something that I implement in the near future. It would always be easier, of course, if I had like a treadmill. Wrong button. Treadmill inside of the house. But Noah and I have both tried having a treadmill in the house, and it just didn't work out. The first place that we lived in, he put a treadmill in the office downstairs. It wasn't like a 3-story house. It was just like a basement that we were in, and my bedroom was like the third floor, quote unquote third floor, was just my room. it was kind of, it was like a, how do I put this? It was like a forest house, something like that, you know, like a cabin. It was more like a cabin. And there was just these massive load-bearing beams that would connect directly from my room all the way down to the floor where he was running. So any time that he would like run on the treadmill, it would make my room just violently shake. And so if I was trying to take a nap, or if I was trying to like do work on my computer, because I'm doing like client calls for work, they could actually hear my room shaking, and my camera would shake. And so it just wasn't something that would work out. You know, the garage, they're like, well, we could put something in the garage. It's like, well, the garage is used for vehicle projects so much. Well, there's no place that we could just put a treadmill without having to move it all of the time because we're doing vehicle projects. And you go, okay, well, why don't you just like go to the gym? It's like, well, I live in an area that is extremely weather diverse, and so sometimes we can get like feet of snow in the wintertime. And you know, if you're trying to warm up your vehicle for 30 minutes and then trucking through the snow for even longer just to walk on the treadmill for a while, like, gosh, that is absolutely brutal. So these might all sound like excuses to you, but I'm more so bringing it up as these are barriers that lead to inconsistency. And inconsistency is the root of all failure. So if I can identify where certain circumstances are going to cause inconsistency, or at least result in like delays, meaning things will take longer for me to implement, like I have to spend an hour and a half going to the gym and back just to walk because of the weather, then have some foresight and look into it. All right, you've waited long enough and heard me ramble, but as you can see, this looks fantastic. I love these massive chunks of chicken, which is a big departure from what we had in some of our previous videos with the rotisserie chicken. Let's take a look at what our total weight is. And yeah, that's nice, 2.66 pounds of food. And I've noticed that now that we've taken some of the rice away and replaced it with beans, the overall weight of our food has gone down as well. But regardless, if we get over 2.5 pounds of food, we know that we're just about hitting our calories, which is great. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know we took a couple of day break, but I appreciate you being resilient and modifying your schedule to my schedule so that we can continue to have these moments with each other. I will be back again tomorrow, either with a meal similar to this, or we'll pull out the crock pot and try to get some roast done, like kind of like a stew with one another. I think that would be good. So thank you very much. I'm going to enjoy this in the comfort of my room. See ya. Bye-bye.